Greetings everybody, Rob here from Sage Tower Games, and I'm bringing you some more ancestries from the Lost Omens Ancestry guide. Originally this was only gonna be one video talking about the Azarketi ancestry because they kind of also have like a little web supplement to them. But when I was going back through my last video that's up on YouTube, so be sure to check it out guys, that I saw I actually skipped the Strix in my last video. And I didn't realize that. So I'm going to do the Strix and I'm going to do the Azarketi in this video. And that'll wrap up all the new ancestries that we have. And like I said before, there are tons of new stuff. We have essentially expanded ancestries as well to check out. So new ancestries for already existing ones. So, but first, the Strix. Now the Strix are a rare ancestry, and they are a full one. So let's check out the pictures as we always do. This guy looks pretty cool, almost in a little like bird. So the Strix are like winged, almost like bird humans. They have talons for feet. Usually have like a spear. So the guy looks pretty cool. This one looks pretty cool. She has like almost like a pirate or like a sailor type theme. Has like a fishing net, a bandana, a harpoon. That's a pretty cool picture in my opinion. But the Strix themselves, let's see what they have. So 8 hit points, pretty standard. Medium, 25 feet speed. Dexterity boost only, so no penalties. They can speak common and they can speak Strix. They have low light vision. And they have powerful wings. Now the wings may not be able to fly right away, but when you leap horizontally, you move an additional 5 feet, and you don't automatically fail your checks to high jump or long jump if you don't stride. So usually when you need to make those jumps, you need a little bit of a running start. With the wings, you don't have to. Let's see the heritages for the Strix. We have a few of them here. So, Night Glider. You are a nocturnal bird. You gain dark vision. Simple, straightforward. Predator Strix gives you a talon attack. So now you have a talon melee attack. 1d4 slashing. Scavenger. You are trained in survival. Gain the forward skill feat. And you get a +1 when trying to subsist as a survival. So, if you're going to be playing a campaign or a game where survival is a bit more of a big deal, maybe you don't have as many inns, as many taverns to kind of buy food, nobody to kind of stock up on food, that's one way to do it. Shoreline Strix. You are trained in athletics and you gain the Underwater Marauder skill feat as a bonus feat. And this one lets you fight underwater, so you're not flat-footed while in water, and your attacks don't take the usual penalties. So again, if you know your campaign is going to have a lot of aquatic themes to it, that could be a good one. And that might be a theme for this one, especially when we look at the Azarketi. So, the Songbird Strix. So this one, you kind of to represent all those birds that kind of sing. You get a +1 bonus on your deception checks to impersonate a mimic voice, as long as the sound is the only factor. So not like where they have to, like, if they see you. You are a master of deception, get a +2 bonus to that. And you gain a +1 bonus on performance checks to sing, and a +2 if you're a master. So the +1 normally, and then once you hit master, they go up to a +2. So, Strix feats. Nestling 4. You trust the strength of your wings, and as long as you act, you take no damage from falling, no matter how far you fall, as long as you aren't like paralyzed when you're falling. So, that's a handy one. Story Crooner. Similar to the Songbird one, you're trained in performance. You get the impressive performance skill feat and a +1 when performing for an audience of Strix. That is, again, highly specific, and unless you're playing in a campaign that might have Strix involved, probably won't ever come up. Strix Defender. The Strix do not like humans, generally. You gain a +1 bonus to Intimidation, Perception, Survival, as well as damage rolls against humans. However, because you hate humans so much that you can even do extra damage to them, you gain a -2 penalty to Diplomacy against humans, and humans usually take one less step in attitude, so they don't like you either. So, if your party doesn't have a lot of humans, or if you're, not that much, maybe as long as you're not the face of the party, could be good. Strix Law, of course, gives you Strix Law. Feathered Cloak. So Feathered Cloak, you have your wings, but you kind of fold them in a way where they don't look like they're actual wings, they look like a feathered cape. You get a +2 bonus to Deception to impersonate someone who isn't a Strix. So maybe you want to be a human, but you want to kind of like pretend that you're actually, maybe you want to pretend to be a human, but you're actually a Strix. You can like feather cloak yourself a little bit there. And those wings can also help you conceal objects as well. So double bonus on that one. Fledgling Flight. You can fly through the air in short bursts at half your land speed. If you don't end your movement on solid ground, you fall. So once per round, you can kind of move a little bit. So at 25 feet, looking at about 10 feet. Say you get 10 to 15 feet of movement that you can fly. So doesn't give you much, but it does, because you have to land, so you can't go up in the air. But if you kind of need to, go over a pit or go over some sort of gap or something, this could be a way to deal with that. Strix Vengeance. Once per 10 minutes, you or a Strix ally you can see are damaged by an enemy's crit. Until the end of your next turn, you deal an additional 1d6 damage on strikes against the enemy. This increases to 2d6 if you have a striking weapon, or 3d6 on a major striking weapon. So basically, someone crits against either you or one of your allies. Next turn, you just get so mad, you can do extra damage against them. Thrown Voice. So this allows you to cast Ventriloquism as a primal spell once per day. And if you're the Songbird Strix that's good at impersonating other voices, you can cast it twice per day. Ferocious Gust. With heavy wing beats, you whip up a furious gust. This gust pretty much mimics the Gust of Wind spell. So every 1 to 10 minutes you can kind of pop up a strong gust of wind, which can help, definitely can change some of the battlefields. And you can see, for those of you, you can knock people prone, you can push them away, they can't move against it. So if you need to keep people at bay, it's a way to do that. Juvenile Flight. So for 2 actions, once per day, you gain a fly speed equal to your land speed while your wings are unfurled. If you got that Fledgling Flight, the one that gives that little boost, you gain a plus 10-foot status bonus to your fly speed with Juvenile Flight. So that's pretty good, because say you had a 25 speed, now you can fly for 20 feet in short bursts. So, and fully flighted, pretty obvious what that means. For current arts, you can speak with animals and status as primal innate spells. wing step. From one action, you can step twice. So if you want to get away a little bit more, or maybe, you know, you have an enemy that has reach, and a step doesn't get you away enough to not provoke, step, you're safe. Ancestors Transformation. You cast 5th level aerial form, but you take the form of a primeval Strix. So we've seen similar ones with the elemental ancestries of like becoming some sort of creature. This is similar. You become a pure Strix. And the fully flighted gives you flight permanently. So looking at this, the problem what I have with the Strix is a lot of it's based around flying, and everything else, except for like wing step maybe, isn't really impressive. Nothing here jumps off the page at me saying this is a cool feat I want to pick up. Like, they look cool, don't get me wrong, but nothing about them jumps out at me as being amazing. It doesn't, unfortunately. So, with that, we're going to wrap up the Strix, and we're going to hop over to another ancestry, the Azarketi. Now, the Azarketi, or aquatic humanoids, that come from like the old Azlanti region in Pathfinder. So, they have a lot of aquatic themes to them. And we can look at some of the pictures for the Azarketi. That has, this is a pretty cool looking character. Looks a little bit shady, but you have this one who you can see more of the gills, and has almost like a very like mermaid type attire with the seashells and like the kelp and all that. Even his weapon has this like coral reef hilt to it. So, Azarketi, it's just an important thing. Have a relationship with Aboleths. These are essentially like creatures that have, in the past, have enslaved these people. So it will come up in a few sections. Hit points, 8, same. Medium size, 20-foot land speed, but 30-foot swim speed. So, they are definitely faster in the water. Constitution and charisma as ability boosts, but they have a wisdom ability flaw, obviously because there's a history of being mind controlled, puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. So, they can speak Common, they can speak Elgathu, and you have a bunch of other additional languages. You can cast low light vision, not low light, you have low light vision, and you have this interesting feature called hydration. Your body must return to the aquatic environment at least once in a 24-hour period. You need to submerge your water to rehydrate. If you don't, you take a -1 penalty to your fortitude saves after 1 day, and after 2 whole days of being out of the water, you begin to suffocate until you get back into the water. Now, this may or may not be an issue depending on the type of campaign you are running. If you are playing a Pathfinder game and you are, you know, going into the desert, going into Catapesh, or going to some dungeon crawl that there may not be a lot of water, and you're going to be there for a few days, might be a problem. Let's look at the heritages. And boy, do we have a good amount of them. And so part of this is because there was a web supplement that was created, and then there's also additional ones in the ancestry guide. So this is why I kind of wanted to break it out into a separate video. So, the ancient scale Azarketi. You gain dark vision. So not only do you have dark vision, but you have these very like phosphorescent spots on your body that actually emit light. So you can kind of illuminate a 10-foot radius around you with these lights. So, and we've seen a few of these in the books of having natural light sources. The benthic Azarketi, or the deep sea heritage. So here you get resistance to cold, equal to half your level, and you don't treat environmental cold as one degree less, and you don't suffer the pressure changes from being in deep underwater. Again, if your campaign is planning on maybe being a deep sea aquatic theme one, that could be useful. In New Azarketi, this is kind of if you're dealing with toxic, you gain poison resistance equal to half your level, and you can survive up to 72 hours before you have to suffocate. So you have one more day that you can be out of the water. Mist Breath Azarketi. This one is an interesting one. You no longer need to be immersed in the water every 24 hours. So it kind of modifies the hydration part. And you just have to mist or wipe your skin with water to live comfortably. However, it knocks your swim speed down from 30 feet down to 15 feet. So you lose half your swim speed by doing this. Murkide Azarketi. This helps you in low visibility environments. So those concealment checks that are usually a 5 and an 11 are now a 3 and a 9 respectively. So it makes it easier for you to hit a concealed creature. River Azarketi. This one, when you try and swim, a success becomes critical success. That's a really good one if you want to, just for swim checks in general. You can really get around a lot quicker in the water. I think that one's a really good one, and especially if you think you'll be swimming a lot, so that hydration part won't even be an issue for you. That's solid. Spine Azarketi. You have a spine attack. It's a range 10 feet, so very short range, but 1d4 poison damage, so it's just a little quick attack if you need it. Tactile Azarketi. You gain imprecise wave sense up to 30 feet, and a +1 to sense direction in aquatic environments. So if you're playing a lot of underwater combat, this could definitely help you. As well as this next one, Thalassic Azarketi. You gain the underwater marauder skill feat, which we saw with the Strix, allowing you to fight underwater without being flat-footed, and your attacks don't have the range. It can be halved when fighting underwater. So 2 good benefits. And again, you can see a lot of these are all based around water, either swimming or underwater combat, underwater exploration. And I feel like these have to be considered. They may not fit in every campaign, but they really are strong in aquatic ones. Other ones, they may have some penalties. I mean, you can make them work. I'm not saying that they can't work, but it will definitely be a bit of a struggle. And now let's look at the Azarketi feats. Algathu bound. So you gain a +2 will against +2 bonus against will saves. That will make you controlled. And if it's a success, it becomes a critical success. Now, if these effects originate from an Algathu, you take a -2 penalty instead. This is a tricky one because Algathu may show up in aquatic campaigns, especially if it's a one that involves Lost Azlanti or Low if it involves the Low Azlanti type people, if it involves that type of people, it will strong chance. I think it shows up a bit in the adventure path. I think it's Ruins of Lost Azlanti. Ancestral Insight. You gain knowledge in Azlanti lore and Algathu lore, and you can't crit fail either of them. The Azarketi lore just gives you Azarketi lore. Azarketi weapon familiarity gives you crossbows, long spears, spears, and tridents, as well as all uncommon Azarketi weapons. And it also leads you to the weapon aptitude, which gives you, whenever you crit, you apply the critical specialization, and the weapon expertise, that it kind of matches up to whatever your class expertise should be. Cynical. You gain a +1 to your perception check against lies or impersonations. So it's a bit easier for you to pick out when someone's tricking you. Hydraulic deflection. 1 action. +1 bonus to your AC until the start of your next turn. Little quick shield. Nothing wrong with that. Pretty straightforward. Pelagic aptitude. You've learned to survive underwater. If you roll a critical fail on a survival check, you get a failure instead to try and sense direction underwater. So, if you're being underwater, that's a pretty good choice. Perfect dive. When you leap or fall into the water, using this action, of course, you take no fall damage. So you can dive, you can dive up cliffs if you want. It's gonna be perfect. Striking retribution. You have an appropriately intense hatred for Agathus. You gain a +2 bonus on weapons attacks against any of them, or against any creatures that may be serving them, because they may be mind controlled by them. And if an Agathu is controlling one of you, either you or controlling one of your allies, that goes up to a +4 for 1 minute. So if you're playing a campaign, this could be a very useful one. I would definitely check with your GM to make sure that it's actually something that would be useful. Because if there's no Agathus in the campaign, there's a good chance you just picked up a dead ancestry feat. Surface skimmer. While you submerge just below the water's surface, you have cover from attacks made outside the water. Aquatic conversationalist. You can speak with the sea animals. You can talk to them. You can make diplomacy check with them, and you even get a +1 bonus. So you can be Aquaman if you want. Right here. Drag down. Drag down allows you to essentially grapple someone and drag them into the water with you. And it leads to Riptide, which allows you to, as a reaction, to essentially kind of like bring people with you. So you can grapple someone and just whoop, bring them into the water straight. That's a pretty cool one, I'm not gonna lie. That one's actually pretty cool. Marine ally gives you a familiar, but it must be an amphibious familiar. So some sort of, baby shark or orca, octopus, what have you. Water conjuration. You can cast Create Water as a primal spell, and you can choose fresh water or salt water in case it matters. So it's once per day, so not great, but pretty okay. Aboleth transmutation. So Algathu is also known as an Aboleth. That's probably the more common name you may have heard them by. You gain 3rd level feet to fins and 2nd level water breathing. So you can cast these spells and you can kind of help someone else in your group with swimming or breathing underwater. Azarketi Purification. You can purify food and drink. And you can also use it on a touched creature to kind of purify their blood to protect them against poison. So that's actually a pretty useful one, a pretty cool one. A way to kind of like purify someone who may be dealing with some sort of poison effect on them. Replenishing hydration. If you're submerged in the water and take a short rest, you can regain hit points equal to your Constitution modifier, which you do have a bonus to your ancestry, times half your level. So, there you have 16 con. So you have like a +3. You're looking at your half your level, so like 4. You're looking at 12 hit points every time you short rest. Not bad. Water Dancer. Whenever you glide through the water, it's aquatic or swamp environment, you ignore the effects of non-magical terrain, non-magical difficult terrain, and swimming up or down isn't difficult terrain to you. So it's easy for you to swim. Water doesn't impede you. Water Strider allows you to walk on water, essentially. You can move across the water, but you can't end your turn on the water. If you do, you will fall. You can, however, use 3 actions to move 3 times your speed if you want to full on this Naruto run across the water. Aquatic Adaptation. This is a really good one for your party. This one will allow you in your group or other people to breathe normally underwater. So if your party is struggling, this is a way to get your party essentially water breathing for the whole day, as long as they don't leave the water. Aquatic Camouflage. When you're fully submerged in the water, you gain you don't need cover to hide from someone as long as they're far away. You just blend in naturally. Hydraulic Maneuvers. So you essentially can disarm, shove, or trip someone with just a force of water that has a 15-foot range. So you don't have to be in melee range with them. You can just do it from a distance. Mist Strider. So this one is the upgraded version of Water Strider, which allows you to essentially walk up or down. But you can essentially kind of go up and down on air. So temporarily walk on air. Rehydration. Once per day, you can essentially just get the hydration issue that we dealt about. You can just surround your body with water kind of from the air. So you essentially just take an hour rest and you don't have to go into water. This is one way to deal with that situation if you haven't picked one of the other ways to deal with it. And lastly, Underwater Volcano. You cast Volcanic Eruption under the water, except it kind of affects the body of water instead, and anything else that would happen. So you just erupt a volcano in the sea. Now you can see right here, we have a lot of options here, a lot of cool ones. I think definitely the Azarketi have a lot more options compared to, say, the Strix, but it's highly aquatic based and highly specific to water. And if that's not going to work for your campaign, they may struggle, in my opinion. So do keep that in mind for those of you that may want to play this class. play this ancestry. So, on that note, that wraps it up for all the new ancestries. With the Azarketi, that gives us to 15 new ancestries in this book. A whole lot of races to play. Our next video, so look at some of the other options that we have in the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. The different expanded ones, the ones, new options for Leshy and the Hobgoblins and all sorts of types. So we'll definitely check out those next. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, kind of to always see when that new content is coming up. And I will see you guys next time with some more Pathfinder 2E content. Thank you.